and welcome to the SwanBank podcast. We are back for episode 18. We've had a lovely week off. I've been all the way to Cornwall on holiday, but the wonderful Kathryn has been here, holding it all together.
Yes.
Missing me terribly, is what I've heard.
We have missed you so much, Sam. It's been unbelievable.
Yep.
I've cried every morning
Every day.
when I've
That's
come
what
into
I've
work.
heard, to be fair.
Every morning.
That's what I've heard. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good, thank you. Yeah. Glad you're back. Alison's been away, so Alison's back on Monday.
Yeah.
So we have had a smaller staff in for the last couple of weeks.
Good.
But yeah, all is fine.
All is
I'm
well.
fine, thank you. The sun's been shining.
Yes, I told you summer had arrived.
Yes.
I told you.
You've had a great.
It's been nice.
the
What
weather
I
been
will
really
say
good?
is the weather was better in Stoke than it was in St Ives.
Oh no.
But
Oh.
I'd rather have been in St Ives than Stoke.
That's Stoke.
Yeah.
You shouldn't really say that. Well, on your holiday you can.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for
But,
sure.
Yeah. So, what was the best bit of your holiday?
Well, we'll talk about this in a bit, but the G7 was happening just round the
I
corner.
think that's really funny. You were holidaying with Angela Merkel.
Yeah.
And
Besties we are.
And Boris Johnson.
Macron. Is that his name? The French guy?
Emmanuel Macron.
So it was. We've been to St Ives before, and it's like it's busy with tourists, but a quaint little like fishing village, lovely harbour, and there was navy ships everywhere out to
Wow.
sea. Yeah. There's like big aircraft carriers, helicopters flying over all the time,
goodness.
and news reporters everywhere. So whenever there was like a little cutaway that you could stand in with a view over a bay towards Carbis Bay, there was like a news reporter with a camera, but it was just fascinating to see.
I was going to say, did it spoil your holiday or did it add
not
interest?
Because actually it meant that the whole place was a little quieter because all the Airbnbs and whatever were taken up with media people, so there were less tourists.
Oh, right, okay,
So it was quieter around the town.
Yeah.
And there was like, as well as it being a beautiful setting,
there
was like loads of stuff to see. We like
Great.
watched navy ships going out and about, and
Amazing.
it was great. Really
So
good.
did
Had
you
a lovely
see?
time.
Did you see any famous politicians?
We saw no famous politicians. No,
that's a bit
sadly.
disappointing.
They were like hidden away.
Where were they actually meeting in St Ives? Like,
So they were in. So there's a resort in the next bay called Carbis Bay, and there's a very nice hotel that's like right on the beach. The coast path goes through the resort.
So they weren't glamping. Or
They weren't
in a yurt on the beach or anything.
No yurts.
Okay.
A very snazzy hotel.
Okay.
But while we were there, Alicia joined all the like local Facebook groups to try and find out the lowdown
That's
on
really
what was
funny.
going on. So like every 10 minutes she was like, "Look at this video. Look at this picture. Look, Joe's here." She spent the whole week trying to find Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. So
Yeah.
where's Wally?
Yeah, exactly. It was exactly what it was. So yeah, it was. We've had a great time. It was lovely. Ate some lovely food. Weather was great.
Fabulous. How many pasties did you eat?
Not as many as last time.
Okay, because you had a pasty a day last time.
Yeah. The start of the holiday was challenging, I'll say.
Okay.
So day one, I got pooed on by a seagull.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
If you get pooed on by a seagull, you really get pooed on by a seagull, don't you? There
So
is
I
a
managed
lot
to
of
miss
poo comes
Alicia.
out of a seagull.
Managed to miss Alicia, but somehow it pooed on both of my thighs. So I was sat on the beach and I got both of them. So I don't know how that happened. So that happened, and then day two, a seagull nicked the end of my pasty out of my hand, sat on the beach. So that was not a great start, I'd say. But to be fair, from that point on, I then had no fear of a seagull because I thought the worst has now happened. It's nicked me food, and I've been pooed on.
Has it pecked your head though?
It pecked me hand.
Did
I was holding
it?
it in so when you eat a Cornish pasty, you're like left with the little pastry bit at the end.
Yeah.
And I had that. I was like admiring it, thinking this has been a lovely pasty. And I've had a lovely time sat on this beach eating this pasty. And then the next minute, it was gone. It was out.
Wow. So before I came here, as you know, we lived in Sunderland, and seagulls are like so big and loud and in Sunderland. And in nesting season, sometimes you had to do like run the gauntlet from your car because we had like on-street parking because we're in like an old terrace house.
Yeah.
So like you would park wherever you could get parked, and then you had to run to the house because these seagulls would like dive bomb you. It was really frightening.
But then the next day, we chose to have fish and chips on the beach, and there's a lovely fish and chip shop. But
Nice.
I took a forkful straight in the mouth, and then closed the lid of my little polystyrene.
You weren't getting any of your chips.
Yeah.
No.
I was determined they weren't going to eat any
My
of
question
chips.
was going to be, did you have lots of fish? Or
Loads of fish.
Did you?
Yeah.
Like-
Every time we ate out,
Yeah.
we had fish, which was lovely.
Did
Lots
you
of local
have
produce.
Langoustine?
No.
Okay.
No. We had one place, we had a pint of prawns as a starter.
Oh,
That was
interesting.
very nice with like heads on and all sorts.
Okay.
So Alicia's like there, like a pro, like she's done it a million times. And
Okay.
I'm there,
Like-
covered in prawn juice by the end.
And the little eyes that look at you.
Yeah. I don't mind that. It was just messy.
I've always fancied lobster.
Have you?
Have you ever had lobster?
Yeah.
Have you? Is it not as good as the thought?
No, it was really nice. We went on a cruise once. And
that's an old person's thing to do.
I know. It was lovely. We had a lovely time. And it's a very like elaborate, extravagant thing, eating dinner on a cruise ship when you're in the proper restaurant. And so one night was lobster night. And so I didn't really fancy the lobster meal. So I was chatting to the waiter about what I wanted. So I said, well, I'd love to try the lobster, but he said, it's fine. You have this pork dish, and I'll bring you half a lobster to have on the side. So,
oh wow!
So then, because I was the first order, everyone else around our table was like, "Oh yeah, we'd like that as well." So we all had meals with a lobster on the side. But it was nice. I'd have it again. It was lovely.
Good. I fancy that.
We had lovely Cornish crab.
Now I like a bit of crab.
Yeah, it's good.
White meat or brown meat?
We had a mixture.
Yeah,
it was nice.
I think that's the best.
So Alicia one night had crab tacos in a restaurant.
Oh,
we had like a crab grilled cheese sandwich, which was nice.
Crab
it's lovely.
Tacos, that's like a revelation to me.
It's good.
Sounds great.
So there's a restaurant called the Rum and Crab Shack. So I drank the rum and she ate the crab. So we had a lovely time. It was great.
Wow, that sounds fabulous.
We had a lovely apartment just above Porthminster Beach.
Oh, okay.
Which is the big long one just next to Carbis Bay. Extinction Rebellion turned up with a big protest on the Friday.
Because of the G7
summit. So they started at the top and then walked all the way down.
They didn't do anything like.
They just made a lot of noise.
I don't know. Abseil down your building or anything like that.
No.
I don't know. They do extreme things, don't they?
No, they do. So yeah, had a lovely time.
Fabulous. Good.
Well rested. My tan's all right. Looking all right. Feeling
excellent.
Okay.
Good.
Anything exciting happened in my absence? Have you been up to anything fun? You've been on holiday as well. Where did you?
I haven't been on holiday at all.
You've been to Blackpool.
I've been on a conference at Blackpool.
Kathy went to Blackpool on holiday.
It was very sunny, lovely
it was
weather.
Work time. That's what I've heard. That's the rumour. That's what everyone in the office is saying.
I was working hard on this conference.
On the Blackpool seafront. Lovely.
We did have a walk along the seafront,
nice.
Which was nice, with some friends that I caught up with, other superintendents.
Yeah, nice.
Who I only really see once a year. So it's always nice to do that. I mean, it is nice. It is like, it is work, but it is nice work.
There's
that sounds really bad,
to the job,
isn't
there? There's got to be some perks.
I love my job 95% of the time.
Good. And then have you been up to Durham as well? Did I spy
just overnight.
On Lloyd's Facebook?
Cheeky overnight to Durham.
Cheeky overnight.
To meet my oldest son, Ben, and his
Lovely Ben.
girlfriend, Lizzie, who I haven't seen Lizzie since last September. I haven't seen Ben since Christmas.
Wow.
So that was nice.
How is Ben?
Ben is well.
Still tall?
He's very tall.
Good.
Yes. I keep looking at him and thinking, you are very tall. Very tall, very thin. It's like hugging like a lamppost. You don't get much back. You don't get much back, I have to say. So I just look like a desperate, sad mother hugging because basically when I hug him, it's about his waist that is like where my arm hug level is. And I just look like a needy mother.
So you like tap you on the top of the head?
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. Yeah, bless him. So, but that was very nice. Had a very nice Italian meal.
Nice.
In Durham.
I like Durham.
Yeah, well, Lloyd's...
Feels a bit fancy, don't it?
Lloyd's not been to Durham before. Well, he has for a wedding, but we didn't really see much of Durham, to be honest. So, when we went to that wedding, so he was like, it's really nice here. And there was like a student-y vibe, isn't there, at Durham?
Yeah.
And so,
Lovely cathedral.
Yeah, we did pop into the cathedral to go to the bookshop. Just because that's, I don't know why. That's what you do, really. So, so that was good. Lloyd wasn't keen on going to the cathedral. He said,
really? I love a cathedral.
He said old churches. He's not really interested in seeing old churches.
I love it.
But I did tell him it's where part of Harry Potter was filmed, so he's really interested then.
Wow.
Which worried me a bit.
I absolutely love, if I go to a city, a cathedral is the thing that I'm like most keen to do.
Lloyd's chair of Lichfield Cathedral Council. I don't really know what that means, to be honest. I just laugh about it. Great for somebody who doesn't
like a big old church,
I did think, well, if you're saying you're not really into big old churches, I do worry a little bit about that part of your job, Lloyd, if I'm honest. But Lichfield's an interesting cathedral. Have you been?
Yeah.
I've only been once, but it's like got all of those like carvings on the outside of important
Love it.
People.
Important people.
The saints.
Good. I'm a big Chester Cathedral fan. Love Chester Cathedral.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I've been to an ordination there, Chester Cathedral. Yeah.
Wow. I think so, have I?
Have you?
I think so.
We might be at the same one.
Maybe.
Whose were you at?
No, I can't remember.
I can't remember either. It was, yeah. Wow.
I think
there you
I've
go.
been. Yeah, probably.
Wow.
I can't remember who or why.
Imagine that. Before we knew each other, we
Who
were
knew?
sitting in Chester Cathedral.
Who knew?
Sitting through an ordination service.
Well,
Wow.
thrilling
Fabulous.
there as well.
So, I'm thinking that
Okay.
because you have been down at St Ives
Yes.
and it's been the G7
G7.
summit, you and Alicia probably had conversations about climate change.
Oh,
And
all the
about-
time, every day.
About what this
Every day.
what this summit was about. So, I thought it would be good to have a conversation around that today.
Yeah, good.
What do you think?
Love it.
Great.
I think climate change is a really interesting issue that I don't think we have ever really spent much time on in the life of our church.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's... I don't know why that is. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's something about our context and locality or what that is really. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it is an interesting one because there are some churches that are very kind of very focused on being sustainable and all those kind of things. And actually, as a Methodist church, the Methodist Church as an overall organisation, British Methodism, does encourage us to think about our footprint and how we can be more sustainable and more friendly to the creation, and it is a godly thing.
Definitely.
The earth is the Lord's and all that is in it. And God created the world in love, and therefore surely part of our Christian responsibility is to continue that love for creation.
Yeah, definitely.
And while we might be happy to talk about how we see God in creation, then how does that filter into our choices and things like that? And I guess in the end, sometimes I have to come down to the fact that there are times when perhaps we love our lifestyle more than we love God's creation.
Yeah.
And that's a real challenge, isn't it?
There was a thing on the news last night. I might get these figures slightly wrong, but by 2080, our average temperature will go up by 4 degrees,
Wow.
which doesn't sound like a lot, but is a huge shift. And for that to happen, now I was sat there thinking, well, that'll be a point where I'm coming to the end of my life, and what will our attitude be at that point? What will, will I be ashamed that I've not done more to try and combat this, or will I feel content that actually I've lived a life that did all I could to make sure that the world that I was leaving behind would be one that was safe and healthy and well, and done all I could to try and combat this climate change that's going on around us.
And when you hear statistics like that, you think, oh well, that's a long way away, but actually it's not. But I guess depending on where you live in the world, climate change climate change is massively affecting some people, and the rising of the sea levels, and people losing their homes, and smaller islands that are looking at actually being underwater within our lifetime. And stuff like that. And it's like, wow, if you live in one of those places, then bloomin' heck, you can't ignore.
And I think that's one of the things that is starting to become more of a reality for us, is that it's starting to hit much closer to home, and we're starting to see the impacts of it here. And this is not something that happens thousands of miles away. This is something that's happening here. I don't know. There's a new Jeremy Clarkson series on Amazon Prime called Clarkson's Farm, which, if you're into Jeremy Clarkson, you'll
I don't really
absolutely
like
love
him.
And if you don't like him, then it'll be the worst thing
Does
you've
me
ever
head in
watched.
a bit.
But there's a scene where, so he's basically taken on this farm, and the series follows him running this farm. And so he's complaining about the really hot summer and the really dry weather, and there's one of these builders comes across and said, this is your fault, because you've been promoting a life of petrol cars and all that stuff. This is the impact it's having. This is right in front of you, is what that has caused. Now obviously it's not all Jeremy Clarkson's fault, but that it sort of made me sit up and think,
what was his response to that?
He just sort of laughed it off and got back in his car and carried on. But I think certainly you see through the series like a realization that actually this is a real life thing for people. He's obviously had to get into the mindset of of a farmer, working the
Yeah.
land and growing the crops and rearing sheep and all that sort of
Yeah.
thing. And that's when the rubber hits the road with this sort of thing, because it's our environment and the sort of stuff we're able to grow and how we're able to manage our land that will be ultimately impacted in it.
Yeah.
And also on the news last night, lots of people saying that loads of new houses that have been built are going to get to a point where they're going to be uninhabitable because they're going to be too hot in the summer, because they've been built with such big, like the trend is to have big windows, and actually they're going to be too hot for people to live in if this trend keeps happening, that temperatures keep going up, because it will just be unbearably hot.
Yeah.
Great. So I think that's particularly why we see lots more young people as being passionate about this as an issue, is because they've grown up with this being something that's going to change our world easily within their lifetime. And so, the Methodist Church, for example, has got a young climate change activist network going on for young adults, and there's all sorts of things, even in the church and outside of the church, that young people are. I think Tear Fund have got a big campaign going on from their young people about what are we going to do about climate change, and I think there's something of their passion and drive that the rest of us need to sort of sit up and take notice of, really.
Absolutely. And I guess one of the challenges as well is those who are most affected currently by climate change around the world are some of the poorest countries. And it always seems to be the case, isn't it, where it's the poorest countries that are forgotten, that are neglected, that are unheard. And again, that has to speak into our Christian conscience, doesn't it?
For sure.
And speak to us about our Christian responsibility. When we see Jesus, who I do believe had a bias towards the poor. And therefore that has to play out as well in how we make our choices, I think.
I think the G7 is a really powerful statement of what those rich countries in the world are going to do for those who are less fortunate. And so we've seen all sorts of things that have come out off the back of it, saying they're giving away vaccines and all that sort of thing. I don't know if you watched the Gordon Brown did a lecture at the Methodist Justice lecture.
I haven't watched it yet, but I intend to.
So I caught a little bit of it, and one of the questions to him at the end, it was a fascinating watch. You can find it on the Methodist Church Facebook page. And one of the questions afterwards was, "What's your take on the G7?" And he said, "I can't knock the intentions, but actually it's never quite enough." So take the vaccines, for example. You're giving away 1 billion vaccines. You need 11 billion to get the whole world to a place where they're vaccinated. Like how?
Yes.
1 billion is great, and that's to be admired, but it's
not enough.
Exactly. And I just wonder if some of this climate change stuff is the same. Like the intentions there, and so the UK's made a commitment to be carbon neutral by, I think it's 2050, which is great. But actually, is that going to be enough? Is that going to be enough for the next generation? For my kids and grandkids, is that going to be enough? To see them live in a world that they can enjoy. I don't know.
Wow. So what does this say to us? I think there's got to be we've got to take responsibility at every level. So it's got to be at the government level, world leaders level,
definitely.
like the G7, and there's got to be the legislation put in place at government level, but actually at every organisational level as well. I think definitely. It's got to be, and at an individual.
It's lots of things we've talked about on here before, and there's a sense of individual responsibility and corporate responsibility. It's almost like a discipleship thing. Actually, it's how we make everyday choices for not just selfish cause, but for the good of those around us. Like, for example, on Sunday morning, I went to Aldi. It's well within walking distance, but I thought, actually, I can't be bothered, so I'm going to take the car to do a shop that was actually just one carrier bag, which I could have easily walked there and walked back. But you think, it'll take twice as long, and it's a bit hot, so I'd rather sit in my car that's got air conditioning. And so there's choices we make every day, aren't there, that can either go,
yes,
this is going to be a choice that's going to have a positive impact on the environment, or not. And it's about being aware enough in each of those moments to think, what impact is my choice now going to make? And there'll be little decisions like that, but there'll also be bigger decisions about, I'm choosing my energy provider for my house or whatever. Do you know what I mean? That actually then does have a big impact, and that's on an individual level. As a church, there's probably lots of questions we've got around what the life of our church, how the life of our church impacts on the environment, and what does that say about us and our care for the world around us? Big questions, I think.
And particularly as we're talking, around that phrase of being a hybrid church, which is around our online presence and our in-person presence. Then obviously, the more technology we use, the more energy we use in that way.
For sure.
So how we hold all of those things in tension, really, I think is going to be an interesting one for us.
Definitely, and it's something that spans into so many different areas of our lives, because it's about the food we eat.
Yes.
It's about our choices about transport. It's about our choices about
holidays.
Yeah, all sorts of things. And I recognise that we sit here as people who are very fortunate to be able to
go on
have
holiday.
some choice about what we do about those sort of things. There are lots of people, particularly in our community, who actually have no choice for financial reasons, whatever, about the sort of things that they're able to consume. But for those of us who find ourselves in a position of a bit more privilege to be able to make choices, I think there's a real challenge to make sure we're making wise and climate conscious choices in that. Which I recognise there's a lot of learning and stuff that I need to do about what is positive and what is going to make positive change. I think this is something that we're just going to have to, and we have been, I think, living with and growing with over a number of years. Like, there's loads of people from our church who chat quite often on Facebook about like different options for washing tablets and all that sort of thing. And so there's definite heart for it. So I wonder if there's like maybe we need to do something a bit more corporate. There's like an encouragement to
get others on board.
And to see this as a real priority.
It's part of our Christian responsibility, because I think it's seen as an add-on, and as you say, it's not something that's talked about very often.
No.
At all. We often talk about how we look after one another's soul. The spiritual side of us. When you die, are you going to go to heaven? Kind of stuff. But actually, it's about that plus.
Well, Jesus was stuff. Not somebody who was just concerned about one part of the people he was ministering to. He was about the whole person. The whole world. Really, he didn't come for just his one specific thing. It was. There's a sense of holistic care there, both for people and for our world and our environment, for sure. And there are people, aren't there, who actually deny the effects of climate change and don't actually think it's a thing, which I can't get my head around at all. And I think that part of me thinks that'll become less and less of a thing
so
now that it's starting to hit closer to home. So like last summer, for example, temperatures around London were 10 degrees higher than the sort of average for that, which is like, well, that's a huge change. And we're starting to see like much longer periods of rain and snow at different times of the year, and there's little things like that which you think, that's a funny one off, when actually you think back, there's becoming a bit more of a different pattern in it to
absolutely
how we experience things like that. And definitely it's just sad, isn't it? And it happens always in our world. It's only when things are sort of right in front of us that we really choose to do something about it and choose to make change in our behaviour. And we've seen that with all sorts of different things over the last.
Yeah, we're so good at burying our heads, aren't we?
Oh, for sure.
Until it affects us.
Yeah.
We don't actually address it, which is not good. Not good. Okay, that's quite challenging, really.
It is. What do we do with that?
Oh, what do we do with it? Well, I mean, there's individual stuff we can do straight away, isn't there?
Yeah.
And the little things that won't change the world, but that will make a little difference.
Yeah,
and it's the basic stuff of turning, not putting lights and heating on until we really need to, and all those kind of things, and make sure that we switch them off, and not having all the computer stuff and technology whirring at the same time in the house. But but maybe we need to think a little bit more about what we do as a church around it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, I think we'll call it a day there. It's been lovely to chat to you, as always. Thank you so much. It's lovely to be back. We'll be back next week. Normal service will resume.
You'll have a special guest next week.
Oh, yes, of course.
Because I'm working away next week, Sam.
That's true. Who should we have?
I don't know. Who would you like to invite on the podcast?
I don't know.
We should invite one of our regular listeners.
Okay.
To come and share.
All right. Okay. We'll have a go. We'll see what happens. So Kathryn will be off next week, working away, but we'll be back with another episode of the SwanBank podcast. We'll catch you then. Goodbye.
Bye.